It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, March 4th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is really not looking forward to seeing Frost and Farabee in those Flames jerseys in person, Russ.
I am. I always like to see things like this and see how people react.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episode and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Phantoms Tuesday. We're going to get to all of the action in Lehigh Valley later in the show. The Flyers do, in fact, face the Calgary Flames with Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost in tow. Really emotional about their return. It should be good, though. I think they'll get a really good welcome from Flyers fans. I think the big question will be what kind of Flyers team and what kind of Flames team, to be honest, is going to show up for this game, right?
Yeah, I think the fans will definitely treat them well. I don't want to hear any talk about who won the trade. People are trying to do that. If you want
It's
to
too
talk about
soon.
that late next season, fine. We'll have that conversation. But as far as for this game, it's interesting because I think Calgary has fallen off to the point where I don't think they're really in it. And the Flyers kind of know what their fate is, but they're playing their best, trying to play their best. So I think both teams are in a similar spot. And so yeah, they're going to both try and win this game. They're both going to try and play their best hockey, but they're both on the outside looking in, and I think that's where they're going to end up.
Well, Calgary is technically on the inside at the
I
moment.
know.
We will get into that. An interesting note from Flyers practice yesterday from our friend Jordan Hall, and he said they were spending some significant time practicing their overtime play, which is something we have talked about
I mean, it's
as
taken a
of
whole
late.
season for this. Yes.
So they're doing it.
Okay.
And as Jordan notes, and as we are well aware, given this season, they've gone to overtime 18 times this season, which is a lot, I would
It's a
say.
lot.
And that Torts stopped what they were doing and said that they shouldn't be doing more a zone coverage and switching their man, that they should just find their man and stick to him for the whole time. And that really, he really thinks that the focus of the practice was on the defensive side of overtime. And Torts himself mentioned after practice that he doesn't like it when the Flyers get into a dangerous situation when they shoot wide, because that automatically leads to the 2-on-1 in the other direction and the other team gets possession. And as we know, possession is everything when it comes to 3-on-3.
Okay, so a few things. Sometimes if you feel like there's an open spot on the net high, you're going to go for it. And if it does
Right.
bounce out wide, it's going to happen. Like he can't stop that from happening, especially if those are the only shots you're getting from the other team. Uh, Having a focus on defense is fine in the shootout, except it will drain your offense if you're looking too much defensively. And the Flyers have enough problems with puck possession. And then as far as finding your man, that's great. But then how are you operating your changes? Are you going to wait for them to change? What if they do their overtime with guys running at 20 seconds and you're doing it? You're expecting it to do it for 30. Like all of a sudden it's going to change. You can't do what the other team's doing. So I don't fully agree with this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, this could be what they were just particularly working on, and that
Mhm.
when you're in the cycle of it, you don't wanna abandon your man, because that leads to defensive breakdowns, and then maybe you do, when the line changes happen, you cycle back into the neutral zone, like, all of those things. So, and again, having not seen this in person, this
Right.
is just based on a single tweet from Jordan Hall. I think, there's room for interpretation here, but I do think that when they shoot wide, the 2-on-1s do go in the other
But that
direction, and
happens
that's
to
been
all
an
teams.
issue.
Like, are you
I
telling your
know.
guys not to shoot
I
wide ever
know.
again? Like, what if you're facing a big goalie who's a 6'5" goalie, and that's all you got, and all you got is the top
Right.
corner on both
And you want
sides?
that bounce, right? To try and
Yeah,
get another if you're
yeah,
in the right position, it can work. So
yes.
I think there's a middle ground here for sure
I think there is
overall.
too.
Yeah, yeah, but just interesting that they are practicing
No, it's good. I mean, better
on
late than never.
that, right? And the other interesting thing post practice yesterday, at least from my perspective, is in talking about the goaltending, and that Fedotov playing well doesn't change his goalie rotation, but that he continued to praise Fedotov in his play, but he's gonna have the goalie rotation of a top goaltender and a backup goaltender, and that's just how they're gonna run things.
I mean, I think they have to look at how many games Ivan Fedotov should play this year. I think that's more important than this rotation. But
Yeah,
their
I think
team.
it'll change if they're out. I think as
But
long
they
as
may not be out until the last week.
I understand
So you're
that,
talking one
Russ.
start.
I'm just saying we know what Torts has said, so I'm not expecting any changes until
Yeah,
they're out
I know,
to
and I'm
that
just
thought.
expressing that I don't think it's the right way to go. That's all.
Yep, that's fair. That is absolutely fair. As we know, it is trade deadline week. As of recording of this episode, no updates for the Flyers. We asked you yesterday. We're going to ask you again. If you have suggestions for trade deadline deals, let us know. We'll talk it through on the show, give you a thumbs up, thumbs down, or adjustments to make. And we got a really good one on Monday that we are absolutely going to talk about on tomorrow's show, and it involves the LA Kings. So, looking forward to that conversation very, very much because I loved the suggestion.
Yeah, yeah.
The Calgary Flames, as we noted, are still in the race in the West for the wild card. They're in the 2 slot as of Monday before Monday night's games. But there's 3 other teams in the mix there right now for that wild card spot, including Vancouver, Utah, and St. Louis. Flames have not been playing great as
No.
of late, and especially since the trade with the Flyers. But they are 3-5-2 in their last 10. They're 11, 13, and 5 on the road for the season. So this road trip for them is not coming at a good time at all.
No, and getting shut out recently a couple games looks bad too. I
Yeah,
think
2 games in a row they got shut out by a 3-0 score prior to their most recent game, but which
yeah.
we'll talk about too.
Yeah, so I think the issue for them is they're not going to be buyers. If somehow their team remarkably stays in it, that's great, and they'll try to. But I think they're subtly falling out of it. But for this game, look, I mean, this is a different kind of road game. This team is going to play really hard for Frost and Farabee. They're going to do all they can to get them on the
Yes.
scoreboard. Those guys understand this rink. They're going to tell this team all the little spots and all the little things about the Flyers, and so that
And the goalies.
and the goalies. So that, this 11 and 13 to me, you could throw out the window for this particular matchup because it's going to be different on both sides for obvious reasons.
Right. And, obviously the Flyers will get some intel from
Of course.
Kuzmenko and Peltier.
Yes.
So does that even out? It depends on what the intelligence is on
Right.
either side,
Right.
right?
Yeah. It's a big deal, though. For both teams, it really changes what a normal matchup would be. That's my basic point.
And, talking about the Flames' most recent game, that was against the Carolina Hurricanes Sunday night. They lost 2-1 in overtime. And there was a couple of things that happened in that game that I thought were interesting. I saw somebody note that it took the Flames 17 minutes and 32 seconds into the game to record their first shot on goal.
Oof.
That's not good.
No, that's bad. But they have some good speedy guys. Connor Zary is very speedy. Coronado is very fast.
Yeah,
So-
but that mark is the latest that any NHL
Oh, I
team
bet.
this season has gone before recording their first shot on goal.
Yeah,
That is not a good record to break.
It's not. I'm pretty sure they probably got read the riot act by the coaching staff,
Oh,
and I think
absolutely.
they're going to probably do everything they can to change that, even if it means just the old cliche, put pucks on the net. Like that's probably what they're going to do to combat that.
Yeah, the other note from that game in particular. Nazem Kadri got the only goal for the Flames in that game, and then at another point in that game, he got wrecked by Taylor Hall, and in the ensuing rush with the Flames down a man because Kadri was down, the Canes scored, and that was like the difference
Yeah.
in the game ultimately in the end. So I think the Flames are feeling a little salty about that game,
Yeah,
and they're
no
gonna wanna
question.
rebound, right?
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the game I'd want to play Nick Delorier. I'll just come out and say it because the
No.
Flames are fast. And how much is he really going to play? I know people might say, hey, he could fight Kadri. Kadri really doesn't fight. He's just an annoyance. And he's like Marchand. So I don't think this is a game where you want to insert a fight. I think this is a game where you want to kind of neutralize their speed and do what you can as far as, not too many block shots, get your offense sustained, get puck possession, those kinds of things. And yeah, try and keep the puck away from them because if they don't have a shot on goal for like 5, 7 minutes, they're going to be, mentally hurt a little bit. They're going to be like pressing. So I think those are more important things, honestly.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more to talk about with the Flames, including where Frost and Farabee have been slotting in their lineup, which is kind of an interesting part of the matchup. We're going to talk about that and some of the head to head info coming up next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts out there. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, gives you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keeping yourself full longer. Personally, I like the no shells variety better because I'm a little lazy, frankly. It's perfect for a grab and go snack for those busy days. And I have them at my desk while I'm working. I had some friends over recently for a movie night. Instead of popcorn, I had a whole bunch of flavors to choose from, and everybody tried them. But the Wonderful Pistachios, chili roasted no shells, and the sea salt and vinegar no shells were definitely the biggest hits by far. So delicious and healthy too. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. These little green wonders pack a protein punch. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. On tomorrow's show, we will be recapping this game against the Calgary Flames. Plus, we're going to discuss that trade proposal that I mentioned earlier in the show with the LA Kings. And we will answer your mailbag questions. So get those in. You can email us at lockdownflyers@gmail, send us a message on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. So, continuing our preview against the Calgary Flames, looking at where Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee have played in their most recent game, Farabee was on the second line with Backlund and Coleman. I think that's a pretty solid combination to try out. I think it meshes well. It's just a matter of, you know, how Farabee is adjusting to like Coleman's game to be
Right.
able to
I
work
think
well together.
Yeah, I think you got some guys there that'll dig for the puck. I think you got some good cyclers there. Backlund definitely wins faceoffs. I think it's good
Yeah.
if he's the shooter, if he's going to play the
Right.
shooting role. If that's what you want him to do on that line, then yeah, I think there's a chance that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. And that Frost is at 3C right now on that line with Connor Zary, which I think that is a
That's
really
good.
good combo
That's a good
between those
combo.
two,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Zary can do a lot of things out there. He's slippery. Frost definitely has the vision where he could find Zary in certain
Yep.
spots.
Yep.
Zary also has some playmaking, so Frost can get shots. I think that's a good duo.
Yeah, and Frost, as we know, and as I liked when he played here, when he does plays from behind the net, I think that kind of style would work really well with
Yeah,
Zary's game for
I agree.
sure. So that is pretty good for them. But we'll see. The Flyers kind of probably know how to stop that in some ways. So
Sure.
I think that again, this matchup is going to be really fun
Yeah.
as far as the chess game goes. I think as far as goaltending, that we'll see Dustin Wolf in net just because there isn't a back to back in the
Right.
window here. And it seems like we're going to see Samerson in this
I
game
mean, it's
as
a
well.
guarantee now.
That should be interesting. And then, looking at stats head to head here, the Flyers are in a unique position where they're actually better than the Flames in a lot of ways. Their penalty kill is better. They're a much better face-off team, which is a rare occurrence,
Yeah.
I think.
That's true. Flyers
Here.
faceoffs have been much better lately.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting things that I noticed recently is that in expected goals for% at 5-on-5, the Flyers are actually 7th in the NHL right now in
Yeah, they're on a hot
expected
streak.
goals.
There's
They
no doubt.
are.
Yeah.
So they've moved up a little bit.
Mhm.
So there's definitely room for the Flyers to continue that goal scoring against the Flames here.
Yeah, I mean, again, Wolf is a guy that can shut you down though too. Like he's really good.
Right.
He's not the biggest goalie, but he reads and reacts well. He sees everything. He's fast. So it's a different kind of goalie that they're facing. So, he could
They're gonna
frustrate
get
them.
their chances though.
They'll
I
get
think
chances, but he's
yeah,
used
and
to that.
with their shot accuracy being better recently, I think it bodes well for the Flyers in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of Flames games lately, but I'm guessing Wolf faces 30 something shots a game. So he's probably used to it.
I did look at the NHL Edge stats
Why?
for
Why
this
did you look at that,
matchup,
Rachel?
just because sometimes I do, because I wanna look at scoring and shoot it's really shooting percentage that I'm
Okay.
looking at more than anything, and this is the weirdest head-to-head as far as the graphic goes that I have ever seen because the Flyers skate a lot and are so much faster and actually have a much better shooting percentage. Here, like, the only thing the Flames really do better than the Flyers is shots on goal in
Right.
any of the metrics that they use, so it's just visually looks funny, but
Okay.
at
You're
any
not gonna
rate,
tell me that Tippett goes
I'm I'm not
21.6
gonna
miles per
rely on
hour
this.
and you're not gonna tell
No,
me
no, no.
that
No,
Zary
no,
goes
no.
20.8. Okay, great.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, but speaking of speed, there is actually a lot of element to the speed game of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, which is a good transition into talking about them. And once again, they had a very busy week. And uh, according to Bob Rochuk, and I looked it up and confirmed it, the Phantoms have actually played the most games of any team in the AHL. We knew they were way ahead,
Yeah.
but they're ahead of everybody at this point. And so they had 4 games this past week. They had a Tuesday and then they had a Friday, Saturday,
They're gonna have like 2
Sunday.
weeks off at some point. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, they've only got 2 games this upcoming week,
Right.
but I think, it's got to slow down at this point.
I mean, someday they're gonna run out of games.
They are. They are. When we talked about them last week, we talked about how it was going to be a tough battle against Milwaukee. And then they had 2 games in a row against Bridgeport that they had to win. They had an additional game against Hershey. Now, I think things pretty much played out the way I would have expected to this week. They played really strong and battled against Milwaukee. They were down 3-0, came back and tied it up. And it was just, Milwaukee is Milwaukee. And so they
Yep.
wound up
Really
losing
good team.
5-3.
Yeah,
Really
one
good
of the better
team.
teams, yeah.
No shame in that loss,
No.
honestly.
No,
None
it's fine.
whatsoever.
I get it.
And then they dominated Bridgeport for 2
Mhm.
games in a row, winning 5-2 and
Which they had
5-3.
to. Bridgeport
Yeah.
is one of the worst teams ever in the AHL right now.
And we've seen the Phantoms lose to Bridgeport earlier in the season, and they
Right.
didn't this time. So I
Yeah,
was
what I
actually
mean, I wanna say, what are that,
very
7
pleased
or
with
8
that.
wins? That's it?
Oh, some at home, something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's real bad. I think they maybe only have 11 wins
11
overall,
wins.
or something like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing the
But
stat. Yeah, it's bad.
yeah, so and then of course, being the last game of the week, could not have success in the last game of the week 2 weeks in a row. They got
Nope,
shut out real
not
bad
allowed.
by the Hershey Bears, which again, another very good team, but still they know how to match up against them well, and they were just out of gas. It was
Yeah.
a pretty rough game on Sunday for them, and they didn't get a ton of really good chances in that game, I thought either. But all
Maybe
this
too much
does,
pregame chocolate.
well, maybe, but all this does is keep them in the same 5th place in the Atlantic, 6th in percentage, and everybody else has a ton of games in hand on them
Impossible to
at the
handicap.
moment.
It really is.
Yeah, impossible. The Phantoms have 16 games remaining at this point.
It's not a lot.
No. So I think it's going to be interesting, but again, there's just no way to tell because all these other teams have to play all these games and see how it comes out in the wash. Again, it'll still be another couple weeks before we could even look at it
Yeah.
effectively,
League's
in
gotta
my
catch up.
opinion. Yeah, but they're 6-3, 0-1 in their last 10, which is good. I
Yeah.
think that's honestly about where I expect this Phantoms team to be
Yeah,
at
I
the
think
moment.
based on the level of goaltending, it's hard to expect more.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about that and the injury situation because once again, it's rearing its ugly head and the
If they only had
goaltending
another
cycle.
goalie, Rachel, like
Well, they do now, and we're gonna talk about that coming up next. All right, so the Phantoms injuries have continued to plague them. Unfortunately, Samu Tuamala is hurt again. He
oh
did
boy.
return last Tuesday, left the game on Saturday in the third with the injury, and then didn't play Sunday. Belpedio had been out. Now he's back. Cooper Marody was out again. Now with the goaltending,
Let's talk
Parker
about goaltending.
let's talk about it because Parker Gahagan, oh my god, poor guy. He's doing everything. He's battling, playing very well recently. Injured on Friday
Ugh,
and left the game after a period. So Keith Petruzzelli had to come in and finish that game. But waiting in the wings, as we mentioned last week, Cal Petersen returned to action for the Phantoms on Saturday after a 16 game absence. I thought he looked really good. And it was just unfortunate because it was his first game back
right.
after the injury. They couldn't play him 2 games in a row. They just
No,
couldn't. And so they had to put Petruzzelli in that game against Hershey,
right.
which then of course, honestly, probably one of the reasons
Again,
why.
if they only
Yeah.
had another goalie that
I
wasn't
know.
playing at the
I know.
NHL level at all, just sitting in the backup slot last game, and I don't know when the last time this guy actually played net, but okay.
Right, right, but we do have Cal Petersen back,
Yes,
so
so that's something.
there's that bright light, but also non-goalie related, Massimo Rizzo got hurt on Friday and didn't play
Yeah,
Saturday or Sunday. So this team is good in the sense that some of their top guys are with the Phantoms now and haven't gotten the call up, as of what we know. I don't know what the Flyers are gonna do, if they're gonna call anybody up, this week or not, but, all of that being said, they're mostly healthy, but not 100% healthy, and again,
right.
just from a development and wanting to see what you have, it's really unfortunate about Samu Tuamala being
It
out and
is.
so
This
in
is
particular.
last couple seasons, it's really kind of been up, but mostly down.
Yeah, it's just kind of a bummer,
Yeah,
when all is said and done. I want to talk about a few guys here. Jacob Gaucher had another very strong week. I am extremely pleased with his work out there. I think his skating is getting better. He had 2 goals on Friday. He had a goal and an assist on Saturday, and that goal on Saturday was a shorthanded goal. It was an excellent play, and I think he had like a little bit of post contract surge, then a dip, and he's worked his way back up. And I think he looks as good as he's ever looked, and that's a good sign.
it is. I looked on Instat to kind of see what he's got going for him, and he's really kept his penalties in line. He's drawn 20 minutes of penalty time, which is
Yep.
good. He's got 2.5 minutes power play, a minute almost 2 minutes of shorthanded time, so he plays in all situations. 69% shots on goal, which is insane.
Amazing.
That's really insane. 54% on faceoffs, real good. 47% on puck battles. He'll get better on that as he gets stronger. So, hits, yeah, you would think he'd be a little bit more aggressive. He's 0.49, a half a hit a game, but some really good numbers from him, and they definitely have gotten better.
Yep. Yeah, and it's very apparent that his
Yeah,
game is just getting better and better. So a very large bright spot this season
for sure.
for the Phantoms. Very pleased by that. Anthony Richard continues to produce at a very high rate at the AHL level.
Yeah.
Goal and assist Tuesday, an assist Friday, a goal Saturday. I think it's just been such a tremendous benefit having him and Rodrigo Abels there at the AHL level to
Yeah, that
bolster
helped.
that team tremendously. Brendan Furry doing another late season surge as he did last
Yeah, he
year,
did.
kind of out of nowhere. But it's not out of nowhere, I guess, at this point. But he got a shorthanded goal on Tuesday and scored again on Friday. And he just looks real good out there. I'm hesitant to praise him above and beyond anything than what he is at the AHL level, just because it took him a while to get here
Sure.
again this
And that's
season.
fair. And that's fair.
But but he certainly does have his moments, and I'm glad to see him like peaking when the Phantoms need him, for sure. Ollie Lixell had a 9-game point streak, and it ended on Sunday when they didn't score any goals in that game. But one short of the Lehigh Valley incarnation of the Phantoms record, which was 10 games. But he had an assist Tuesday, a goal and assist Friday, 2 goals and an assist Saturday. Just continues again to be a huge part of the Phantoms offense there as well.
Yeah. I mean, right now, they're in a pretty good spot offensively.
Mhm.
And you just wish that the goaltending could get
Yeah,
straight so they could finish the stretch, strong. If the goaltending stays askew, that's what's really going to hurt them because they're getting offense from their defense. They're getting offense from guys that we thought could produce offensively. So that's I think, and they're getting shorthanded goals, which is a big deal.
it is. It is. The penalty kill is looking very strong
Yeah.
right now overall, and those shorthanded goals kind of add to it. They were 12 for 14 on the PK plus getting those 2 shorthanded goals. So basically it comes out in the wash in terms of the scoring at
Right.
even. And that's really, really good. I do want to talk about Emil Andrae though, because we've been saying how much we want the Flyers to call him up at this point, and I think one of the knocks on him has been his physicality, right? And
Hmm.
because he's a smaller guy, can he swing it at, you know, pun intended, I guess,
Hmm.
at the NHL level? And this week he was on it. Now, sometimes he goes over the edge and takes a penalty, and he's
Right.
gonna have to work on that a little bit. But he got into a knockdown drag out fight this week and he held his own. I think, he did a very good job at the beginning of this fight and then just kind of got thrown down. But the fact that his board battles are getting a lot more physical, he got into a fight. And I think anybody worried about that aspect of his game, I don't think should be. I think he's still learning in terms of how to manage it, but it's there. That element of his game is there.
Yeah, it's weird though. Like Bradshaw was talking about this, but talking about him protecting himself. And
Right.
you know, that was on a night he got into a fight. Now, Brad didn't know that he was either fighting at that time or whatever. But the point is, if you know Emil Andre is a player, and they certainly do, you wouldn't be talking about a player if he was, I don't know, 6'2", about protecting himself. I think Andre played in the SHL long enough that he knows how to do that. But also now, if you take away this other part of Andre's game because he has to worry about protecting himself, then he is not going to be as effective. And so I don't understand what Brad was talking about. I think he needs to rethink that strategy because again, you're going to take out a big component of his game. And I think just like you said, he's still a young player. He will figure out when to dial it back. But if he's like got to be out there worried about the big hit, he's never going to play well.
And that's where, again, he's still a very young
He is.
player and he's got time to figure out
Yeah.
how to balance all of that out and make it work. And I am not worried about it one bit. And I
No.
think he's playing well defensively. I think his puck distribution is getting better and better as he's progressed this season. And he just needs to work on it at the NHL level. That
Yeah.
is what I feel about his play right now, is that he has almost outlived the usefulness of the AHL to
I
him
mean, I
at
think
this
look,
point.
we've talked about it ad nauseum that he should be up in the NHL. So maybe after the deadline he will be.
Yeah, and, like I said with Jacob Gaucher's game, I hope he gets some more time at the
Yes, he
NHL level.
deserves to get another look as well.
Yeah, especially after the trade deadline, I
Right.
think, if the Flyers make moves in particular.
Right.
So, we'll see how that goes, but, I think, there's some promising individual progress
There
this
is.
season that we've seen over the last month or so that's making me feel a lot better about this season than I was a month ago.
I
So I
feel
think
better
that's
about
good.
certain players. I don't know if I feel better about the season. I'm not where you are yet mentally, but player-wise, I feel better about
That's what I'm
certain
saying.
players. Okay.
But that's the goal, is to get some player
Yes.
development, right? And
Right.
so that's what's making me feel better
Okay.
about the season,
I
is the
get that.
player development
I
side
get
of it
that.
for a few guys.
I still want to see playoffs and, but
Oh,
whatever.
of
We'll see.
course.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course. All right. Well, we've got 2 games this week, like I said, both games at Charlotte, so that's gonna be a tough, couple of games there this weekend, but looking forward to it, and we'll talk about those results and, any changes to the Phantoms post-trade deadline on next week's show. That'll do it for today. We'll talk Flyers versus Flames and trade deadline proposals on tomorrow's show. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. Let us know your mailbag questions on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.